We should just stay home.
That's true. Let's bring Imani up here too, in case you can meet her. Jade.
Monique is asking what is the password for Zoom, but
there's no password. It's the same link as, is it in the WhatsApp chat?
yeah, she's in a WhatsApp chat. I'll tell her it's the same link as the last.
Yeah, same link as yesterday. All right, can you send her a message, please? All right, so I get things started because it's 6:30, right on time. Well, hello everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for another session this evening, this morning, on the other side of the world, in the middle of the night in Nigeria, early morning in India, and I think it's middle of the day in Philippines, if I'm not mistaken. So this is our third session, and Ms. Irma, who's one of our staff, would be leading the patients lesson plan. She's one of our Spanish speaker, native Spanish, if I'm not mistaken, speaking person. And just before COVID started, we were about to complete our very first full Spanish program here in San Diego. She was doing 2 classes. It was doing great. So it was quite exciting. It's unfortunate that we didn't get to finish it. But anyway, what can we do? Let's do a quick review of what we did yesterday. So while the question is there, if you shared if you've shared what you learned in the past couple of sessions with anyone, I know if you did, Cheryl says she shared with a coworker, so did I think Mushkan said also that, shared with a coworker. And please let us know what was their reaction, what is their thought. It's always great to hear what other people think about what we are learning. While we do a quick review of last Wednesday's session. So Wednesday, we basically talked about our human treasures, treasures that we're all born with, all of them, and it's not a matter of whether we have them or not. We're all born with all of these character traits. Everyone has the capacity to be generous, to be honest, to be truthful, to be trusting, to have tolerance. But these are hidden gems that are within us that they need to be developed, discovered, and developed. And we get all of these from our Creator, from God. In the Bible, it says, "I've created thee in my own image." So we don't know what God looks like, but we know Him by His attributes. He's the all-knowing, the all-wise. So when we become like this polished diamond, and the light of God shines through us, that's when these character traits, like the different colors of the rainbow, manifest in us. That's what's happening. No one can be a perfect diamond or a perfect mirror that can manifest all of these, except the manifestations of God who have brought teachings to humanity. But we try, even if we can try one of these character traits and really work on them, make him perfect, we've done a great job in our lives. We talked about correlation of character traits with our financial affairs, financial life, and so forth. So those are the things that we did. We also talked about our resources, our talents, our knowledge, our physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual powers, of how we can share and invest them with rest of the humanity, with everyone else. So I see Cheryl says she wants to try the program with her family. Great. This is great. We definitely would love to do more and more of these sessions as much as possible, as much as we have resources and energy to do it. Hopefully we'll schedule another one, probably in August, and then going into the fall, we'll be doing that. So today's lesson is about patience. It's about setting goals, which the ultimate goal, based on the writings that we already read, from Quran. It says, "But nearness to Allah is the best of goals." From the Bible, "But seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness." And from Baha'i writing, "The purpose of God in creating man hath been and will ever be to enable him to know his Creator and to attain His presence." So these are the spiritual goals that has been set in the sacred writings for all of us. It doesn't say him, he, she, or whatever. It's for everyone. That is our ultimate goal. Uh, but achieving these even require development of material stuff. That's why we are combining uh, spiritual aspects with financial aspects, because these all go hand in hand. We cannot achieve these goals without achieving our material goals. They have to be done together. So with that, I'm going to jump into our patients, and Ms. Irma, it's all yours.
Okay, are we gonna stay on this page or are we gonna go to, okay, thank you. Okay, patience, I'm just going to read from the top. It says, learn to set small goals and patiently work toward achieving them one at a time. Patience is quiet hope and trust that things will turn out right. You wait without complaining. You are tolerant and accepting of difficulties and mistakes. You picture the end in the beginning and persevere to meet your goals. Patience is a commitment to the future. And in this segment of today's workshop, I want to share a personal perspective about patience and how it relates to saving. I was listening to Alex present one day, facilitating one of our classes, and he was sharing about his culture and some of the expectations of being in a, cultural unit, and how people like to move around in different, social settings, let's say. And I found it very reminiscent of my culture. Latinos are very family oriented. We like to get together. I grew up in a church that, we went to church 4 days a week. And, we were Protestant, and it was a very unique type of upbringing, because my family is Pentecostal, and typically Latinos are raised to be Catholic, but our situation was a little different. But we would go to church so often, and I would feel a lot of like, well, I'm going to church 4 days a week, and Sunday I should try and get a new dress, and it was always about something new to wear. And as time goes on, it's exhausting trying to keep up with those kind of expectations that you put on yourself to have something new all the time. And Alex was sharing that his parent, I think his mom was that true, Alex? Your mom was not really that kind of a person that felt she needed to always,
Yep.
get new things.
Mhm.
And as I've gone along in life, I look back, and I have a very dear friend who's, she's 84 years old, and she's like an advisor, like a mentor to me. And one day we were talking about life, and she said, when you get to be my age, she said, live your life now so that when you look back, you don't have any regrets about things you should have done and things that you could have done. She said, build your life around your goals, so that when you're my age, you'd look back and have great gladness and great joy at the decisions that you made. And I want to share this because when you're setting your goals, a lot of this goal setting and patience, a lot of it is delayed gratification. And in a consumer-driven economy where we're constantly bombarded with messages and pictures, and women, we strive to look a certain way, and the goal is always to be this image, but it really isn't realistic, because even Now during a pandemic, you can't really go anywhere and you really can't do very much. So why would I want to buy something new to wear? You know, it doesn't, it goes against, you know, logic. And if you really look at your life and the things that you really need, the things that really bring you joy, it's less and less materialistic. And it's more and more the internal things that bring us the most joy in life. So when we're considering the things that we want to have in life, and we consider the effort that it makes, that it takes rather, to achieve or obtain these things, then perhaps if we put a little more thought into balancing out what we really need and what we don't need, or what we just want beyond what we need, it's more important to consider it in terms of what do you want to build for the future, because it takes a lot of patience and self-control and moderation to build for your future. Especially as you're younger, it's difficult to see it, to have that perspective when you're younger. But as you get older and you move into that time of your life, you know, we were looking at the chart that said, this is, you know, during this time of your life, you know, you go to school, you get your education. During this time of your life, you're working and you are building toward your retirement. And then at retirement, you don't want to have the struggles. And it's frightening, actually, to be in a position where you're going to retire from work and you realize that what you have built may not be enough for your retirement years. So this is the time when you want to set the goals and save toward achieving your goals, and understand the value of delayed gratification, because that's
So,
really
Irma, I'm sorry to cut. Let's have some conversation from our participants too. So I
oh,
just put
okay.
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you, but we got to make sure that they have their participation in here too. So I just put a question in there. What are some of the things we'd asked this even in the group chat? What is one goal that that they have? So whether it's a young person, it's one of our youth or one of our adults, and how much it is. I have seen some of the, and thank you so much to all of those that filled out their goal sheet. Really appreciate that. So I've seen some of them. So some of the responses we are getting, Austin wants plenty of money. Austin, I don't know that you're on your own, buddy. Karen says, I want to buy a home. Elijah says an iPod, probably an iPod or iPhone. Yusuf says iPod. Elijah says iPhone. Mujgan says a car, upgrade an iPhone. So another question is, how do you get these? Especially for, I want everyone to kind of go back to your childhood. This is the question that we always ask in the classroom. What are, if you're a youth or a child attending this, or go back to your childhood, what were some of the methods that you would ask your parents? Would you, when you ask, so Irma, I'm going to ask you, if when you were a child, when you wanted a dress, did you ask your parents?
Oh yeah, my mother was a seamstress, so I would tell her, please, can you please make me this dress? So
Okay.
we'd have to go to the store and get the fabric and then patterns and all of that. So I would bargain with her. I would tell her, I'll cook dinner if you sew my dress.
Okay.
So I learned how to do that.
And was the you know, beside the dress, were the answers always yes, or sometimes yes and sometimes no?
We were on a tight budget. It was a lot of no's in there.
Okay, a lot of no's, and I think that is true with a lot of people in here. Okay, so Yusuf says, so the question was, how do you or did you ask your parents for the things you want or wanted? Yusuf says yes. Yusuf, can you elaborate on that? It's like, how do you ask? And we watched a lot of videos. So going forward, some of our lesson plans are going to have videos. This one is a short one and it's very cute. We played this one here, but then a lot of them are like 5 minutes. So we'll post them in the group chat, so you can preview before that. But Irma, my question, is it normal to want things? is it that some people are just abnormal, that they want a lot of stuff? Which one is it?
I think it's normal for a human being to just want things, to see things and want them.
Okay. So Elijah says, give the benefits of what you're getting and bargain with them. I like that. Bargaining with parents. Karen says, I didn't have a home where I was welcome to ask for things. I accepted material gifts or things provided as received them. Nari said, is it human nature to want? Oh, that's a question that you put in. Okay. So why don't we watch this video? This is so cute in here. Any of you, again, if you were hanging on to your parents, if you would go to a store and you saw something on the shelf and you wanted it and they kept saying no, no, but then you would not leave them alone. You would use puppy eyes or hang on to their legs. So we have a little friend that knows how to be persistent with whatever he or she wants. So let's watch this little video. You're gonna love it. So the little bear definitely has a lot of persistence. It just doesn't give up, which is a great quality. You know, perseverance. That's one of our character traits that we should not give up. So Irma, how do we? I mean, let's say we set goals. I think this is something that we did. I said an iPhone, $1,000. How do we achieve our goal? What are the steps that we have to do to achieve our goal?
Well, I think first you have to determine what it takes to get that thing that you want. In this case, the iPhone. You have 6 months where you need to save. So I would typically just look at my budget for the next 6 months, and I'd have to see what do I need to sacrifice to save $1,000 in 6 months.
And that's a tall order. Saving up $1,000 in a month, especially if you're young. Even for adults, it could be very difficult in here. So then we got our plan of action, doing maybe some extra chores that it doesn't matter whether we're adult or whether we're a child. Still, that holds true. Less Netflix or less playing games. I think that's something that a lot of it, both adults and youth do. So sorry about this. This thing's still doing it. So purpose. What would be the purpose of? Because we often, I think, as Irma mentioned, we often see other people having things and we want it. That's something that we do. So Irma, is that healthy or is it not healthy?
I don't think it's healthy to compare yourself to anyone in any regard. I think it's better to see it as, will it fulfill a need in my life? Do I have work or business needs that would say, you know, an iPhone would really help me be more productive or help me achieve something in my business, you know, my business affairs, my business endeavors. That's something only you can determine.
And actually, I'm thinking of adding another column in here. So in my path to buy this iPhone, what could be distracting me? What could be pulling me away from achieving my goal? Any thoughts on that?
Not planning and not being consistent in saving toward that goal.
And I think more and more, especially with technology moving so fast, by the time I save up for iPhone, I don't even know what's the latest iPhone. So I'm going to ask our young ones in the group chat, what's the latest iPhone? I lost track. It's like by the time I save for the latest phone, it's like, oh, a new one is out. Now it's a little bit more expensive, or I'm going to work for more and do that. That is something that, not unfortunately, I mean, we cannot just keep up with technology. And often we don't even need to, because what we want a phone or a car for is to get us through a higher goal. So let's move on to the next area, which is setting a family goal. I know several people did this. So let's ask this question: what are some of the family goals? Because I think so. Irma, is it important for everyone in the family to buy in on a family goal? Or is it just like if the parents are working on it, it's okay. The youth and children don't have to be involved.
Everybody has to be involved. If it's a family vacation, then everybody should pitch in. Even if it's a small percentage of the cost of the vacation, I believe that children that get an allowance, they should learn to put aside money toward a family vacation. That way they will value the vacation and appreciate it more if they participate in saving for that vacation.
Okay. And it is. I mean, it's so important for the whole family to buy in, because again, it's a family goal. I know Mina had asked, because she's single. She asked in the group chat, what are some of the ideas for family goals? I'm not sure if anybody posted anything in, but we're asking the family, what are some of your? I've seen some of the family goals. Vacation was one. Even when we are thinking of buying a house, those who are thinking of buying a house, that is definitely a family goal, because everybody has to pitch in there. Even though that it might be a small portion that's allocated to our youth or maybe the young ones, but everybody has to. So Sahar says personal bank account, joint business account with goals and values. So that is the family goal that they're having. So please continue putting that. Edward's family say putting a pool in our house. There we go. I think they're living in LA, and Edward's family is in LA, and it definitely a pool is a nice thing to have these days. So that's definitely something that we do. So this is the table that we started with. Austin says to stay close to God through prayer and Bible study. Perfect. It's not just the material goals, it's our spiritual goals too, that we are all working together, or working both material and spiritual in there. So we've done this table before. We'll be revisiting this table many times, just to remind us that while we are working on our spiritual goals, we also have to do our material goals too, the things that we want in here. We'll cover some more on this, but I want to go down in here and see what people thought about leaving a legacy. I know some, again, I looked at some of them. I know Elijah wants to be, if he doesn't mind, I'm going to share his goal. He wants to be an architect and build buildings. So that is something that to help people. I know from our family in India, one of them said that they want to have like a animal shelter, if I'm not mistaken. Those are things that we definitely want to leave behind, because as we read, for those who believe that their soul will continue to survive after this body dies, that's one of the ways that it happens, uh, what we are remembered for. And we see that there are many people that are remembered and their legacy continues on, even if when we don't know who they were. There are some that are very famous, like Mother Teresa. Let's see who else we have. Irma, help me out, please. Are some of our celebrities that have done great work throughout the world. Even the bank. So that's a homework that anyone can do. For example, J.P. Morgan. He was one of the big bankers in the early 1900s, and Carnegie, which is now has the Carnegie Library and the Carnegie Hall. They were individuals who were very rich, materially rich, back in the early 1900s, and then they left their legacy for other people. And there are even a lot of people now that are doing so much great work in the society to make sure that something is left behind. So let's kind of concentrate on this topic in here, as people are putting. Deborah says educational materials that would help others. That's a great legacy to leave. There's a lot that we can do. So as part of being able to help humanity and leaving a legacy, we need to get to a point where we don't necessarily have to think about where our next meal comes from. And we've asked that. This was one of the questions from the very first assignment that we had. Do you worry about tomorrow's meal, rent, mortgage? And it's more of a metaphor than actually do we do it or not. So what are your thoughts, Irma? Should we worry about tomorrow's meal and our expenses?
Absolutely. We should always make sure that we have enough for our necessary expenses. But I just wanted to go back to that last point that you made about leaving a legacy.
Mm-hmm.
I just read yesterday an article about Jack Dorsey, who's the CEO of Twitter.
Okay.
And he's planning on going into investing into basic universal income. He's going to do this huge social experiment.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a guy who's got billions of dollars, and he could pretty much say, well, I've got plenty of money and I can just go and retire and not worry about anybody else. But there are people who do leave tremendous legacies in society, and I think that's a great thing.
It's just that there are so many people in our lifetime, like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, that they have allocated while they are still living. They have allocated at least half of their wealth to helping humanity. So they're doing that, and more people. That is actually they have encouraged others to do the same too. But here's my question: do we need to have a lot of money, a lot of time, to start thinking about how do we help other people? Irma, that's my question for you.
Oh, my answer is yes, absolutely. If you plan.
No. I mean, do we have to have a lot of money and a lot of resources before we start helping others, or can we do it even when we don't have enough?
Oh, absolutely not. I started singing with a choir that helps people that are unsheltered, and a lot of us are just barely, doing okay, but we volunteer our time to this very worthy cause. So it doesn't require us to give of our money. It requires us to give of our time and work. So no, you don't need a lot of money to give back to your community.
So let's see. The Edwards family say legacy can be raising a well-adjusted kids, and that's perfect. It doesn't have to be always material. Let's see. Need to have a lot of money, so we talk about that. Irma, can I give up your secret? That you're a celebrity by yourself, but with your team. So Irma actually is in the current season of America's Got Talent, and her show aired it was like a month ago, I think. It was aired.
It has aired like 4 times now.
4 times. So I will put the video on the group chat so everyone can see. And they did get the golden buzzer. They were at least the first one that they showed on this series. I'm not sure if when they got that, but she, along with the choir that she was explaining and what they're doing, and we're also hoping to do this program for them. We're hoping to see that this program is not just for people that don't have enough money or they don't know how to manage. Well, it is definitely for those that don't know how to manage their money, but it's really has nothing to do with how much, because what we're learning are the tools, are the basics that can be applied if we have $500 in our pocket, or if we have 5 million or 50 million for that matter. It's about being able to manage our finances. A lot of people know how to make it, but then a lot of them don't know what to do with it, especially this leaving a legacy. I work with several counselors that work with youth and families. And one of the concerns that families that are materially well off is that how are our children going, what are they going to do with the legacy that we leave them behind? They have no idea. They absolutely have never been taught how to manage their finances. So what would they do with it? So we're hoping that we will do more and more of these. So let's concentrate on a little bit of actual numbers in here. We talked about last two sessions, we talked about doing our budget. I don't know, I don't think anybody has actually started doing the budget in here in their workbooks. I'm hoping that if you are not doing it in your workbooks, you are using either a spreadsheet of your own, again, a napkin, a piece of paper, an app. We talked about Mint. If you search on your either App Store or in the Google Play or App Store and just search for budgeting tool or even wallet. I know for our youth, there are simple programs that you can install on your phones that will help you keep track of your finances. So this is one element that we talked about, putting down our monthly expenses and then estimating our monthly expenses and then doing the actual ones too. So today what we're going to be looking at is another dimension to our personal finances. This kind of gets into a little bit of, it's shared between personal and business. So in our finances, we have basically these two areas. We have our income that can be driven from active income or passive income. And then we have our expenses in here. So active income are types that we actually have to do something. We have to physically do something for it. In our young ages, for extra chores, again, not for any chores because we all have responsibility, but for extra chores, we have to do something. If our parents ask us to wash their cars, it's an extra chore. It's not for our youth to wash our cars. That could be something. As we grow older, then we start by working for other people, and that's employment. Some people start having a self-employment. They might, and self-employments are usually, it's a one-man operation. Sometimes we take over from our parents. Maybe our father or mother had a business that we just take it over, and it's just a one-person operation in here. A lot of people that do repairs around the home, those are usually self-employed people in here. So again, for this area, we have to actually do something. There's no way that we can just sit and say, all right, my chores are going to, thinking about my chores is going to make me money. Then as we progress through life, some people decide to have a business. So a business ownership, it's a higher level. Then you are exceeding, you're going higher, and then so you have employees, you have staff, you have people that are working in your business. It gets larger, it gets more complicated, but still it drives income. And then the one that we really want to get to is passive income, because for us to be able to really dedicate our time and energy and everything, we want to make sure that we don't have to worry about how we're going to pay for our expenses. These are the two main categories. There's some more, but these are the main two categories in here. So I'd like to, in the chat, ask the friends, can people think about passive income? Or we wrote in here royalty, rental income, interest, dividend. Where do these come from? We know where active income comes from, but what generates these type of income for us to be passive? And then we'll talk about expenses. So the question is, passive income, we know these are the categories, but where do they actually come from? How can we sit at home and do nothing or little and then have these income come through? Then in our personal life, we have life necessities. We have, these are our food, water, clothing, shelter, and health. We like luxuries, travel. What else, Irma? What else can we think of as far as luxuries go?
Luxuries, just, jewelry,
Okay.
uh, clothes that are really not the day-to-day necessities.
Okay. Uh, I want to say fashion clothes, something like that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Fashion
fashion.
clothes. Yep.
Or we could say we like to entertain ourselves a lot. I
Okay.
personally like to hear live music,
Okay.
and that's a luxury.
All right. So we got those. Uh, all right. So let's see what we have. We have starting to have some messages in here. Um, okay. So from Edward's family, it says assets. Some of our assets can generate income for us, definitely. Karen says rental income would come from rental property, and interest comes from putting your money in the bank. Perfect. All right. So we have that. Austin says book you have written, for example. Yes, that would be an example of royalty.
Hmm.
Something that we create, that would be it. Let's say Elijah say technology is one. Yes, if you invent a new technology, that is where you would get royalty. It could go across all the other ones. So let's see, there's more. Having a shop, okay, all right. Deborah says, what about if we earn money from investing? Yes, definitely investing. And that would be, let's talk a little bit about that. And equity in a company, that's perfectly true. That would be like, I'm going to put that up. I'm going to open the next line in here. So these are great examples. Before we move away from expenses, interest that we pay on loans and credit cards. So Irma, a lot of people have credit card debt or credit card payments. Is
Yeah,
that considered an expense?
absolutely.
Hmm. We should have talked beforehand. So let's say, all right. So let's say I have gone and put my travel and jewelry and clothes, life necessities, everything on credit card. So now I have a credit card debt of $2,000, and then I have to pay, let's say, $200 a month. Is that an expense?
Not in the same vein as a life necessity, no.
Okay. All right. So one thing that people always get confused is that um, the credit card debt is not an expense by itself. What you spend the money on is an expense. So the money that you spend on the clothes or life necessities and all of that is an expense, and that's why we separate it. So here it says interest that we pay on loans, on personal loan, and we'll see the loans. That is an expense. But a lot of people, when you ask them, so what are your expenses in life? They list everything: phone, internet, those are all expenses. And then credit card payments. It's like, well, credit card payment is a payment. It is not an expense. So we have to make sure that we understand the difference between the two. So now let's say this is in mostly in the professional, in the corporation environment. It's called profit and loss. In the home environment, income and expenses. It really doesn't matter what it is. So the other area that now we want to concentrate on is our assets and liabilities, or as is known in the corporate world, our balance sheet.
Mhm.
And there are different types of assets. We'll get into it in the next, probably on Monday. So assets, it's our real estate, what we own, the personal home that we have, personal residence, an automobile, a car that we might own, and a furniture. Um, this one and this one, can we earn any money from our personal residence, auto, or furniture? Irma, what do you think?
Your residence could, your property, your real property could be, the valuation can increase as time goes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah, the valuation can go, but most likely we are living in a house or in a place, in an apartment or something, and it's just us. There are some circumstances where there's like a little place outside that can be rented and so forth. Automobile, yes, we can drive to work or use it for our business. They can, but generally these are known as the non-bearing income assets. They don't generally produce assets in here. If people have life insurance, that is an asset. So here in the passive income, this is what a lot of you wrote down in here. So royalty, they come from intellectual property, music, songs, book, design, poem that we write, anything that we create, we will get royalty from it. That is how that one works. Rental income obviously comes from rental property. When we have rental properties, that's where the passive income is going to come from. We may need to do a little bit, maybe manage the property a little bit, but most, or have someone manage it, but then most likely it will do generate income for us. And then interest and dividends, they come from savings, not in US. If you live, with those that live in US, we know how much our interest. So I'm gonna ask this question. Who knows a typical interest rate for a savings account, especially from our youth? Do our youth know how much is a typical interest on a savings account? Austin, I'm going to ask you, what's the interest rate for a savings account in Nigeria and from our friends around the world? Jennifer, if from Philippines, we have a few people from India, if you can share with us. All right. Natasha from India says 4.5. Wow, you guys do good. Jennifer from Philippines says 0.05. Okay. Let's see. I want to see who knows what it is in US. We're going to beat everyone here. Elijah, you're missing 10. It's 0.01%. 0.1% would be good. It's actually point. So basically, if in US at this time, if you put $100 in a bank and leave it there for one whole year, at the end of the year, we will have $100 and a penny. That's really, but that is the reality in here. So that's why a lot of times, I mean, it is a safe place to keep our money, but not as an investment, not as something that it grows. As you can see, it really does not grow. Then some of our assets actually can have capital gain or appreciation. That is, so certain type of assets have both, have an income and then also appreciation. So for example, stocks, we mainly buy them because they appreciate. Here in US, only certain very few number of stocks that actually give a dividend, not all of them. Real estate is one of the best investments, at least, don't take it as an advice, but it's because it appreciates in most places and most times. It appreciates not only in value, but also provide rental income. And then precious metal, gold, let's see, silver and jewelry and things like that. Those most often they do appreciate in value. So Austin, you gotta, not sure in Nigeria, but it's low. Okay, Austin, you gotta find that, man. You've been teaching finances to kids. You gotta find out how much interest is in Nigeria. By the way, Austin and I, we've been working on our program for 4 years now. He's done it in a few schools in Nigeria. So that's what we see as far as assets. And then liabilities are when we borrow things, when we get student loan, when we get auto loan, when we get mortgage, and then credit card debt, that is. And then I should have actually broken the liabilities into 2 categories too. There are some good debt, good liabilities, and then there are some that are not so good. So the good liabilities are when we buy a house, for example, most places we have to get a loan. So a house is something that we live in, it appreciates. So getting a loan for it, it's definitely called for. And we will do a session on loans to see who should get a loan and so forth. Student loans, that is, I think we used to be able to do without loans, but now more and more here in US, we have to get loans for college, unless there's some colleges that are free or that doesn't cost as much. And they do have programs for some families that can qualify for getting the education at no cost. But then credit card debt, that is, I don't see, gosh, I'm forgetting his name. It'll come back to me. So credit card debt is something that credit cards, as we will discuss, I love them. I love credit cards. I cannot live without our credit cards. I will not live without our credit cards, but never carry credit card debt for our expenses. That is when once we learn how to use credit card, they can be really enjoyable. I always compare it with driving a car. Most cars these days can drive very fast. If we learn how to drive them safely, we can really enjoy it. But if we don't learn how to drive them safely, they can really be get us into trouble. All right. So one thing that most often people do, and if you have any questions about these four categories, please put it uh, in the chat. One thing that I like to mention, so let me ask you this, Irma. What do most people, especially here in the US, from these categories, what do you think people concentrate on generating more income, spending more, having more assets, or having more liabilities?
I think there's, well, statistically, it seems that people have accumulated a lot of credit card debt in this society.
Okay. What would be the reason for that? Why do you think people in our society are accumulating more credit card debt?
I think because you don't have the immediate cash to pay, you don't have the money immediately to pay for something that you want now, and people that aren't willing to wait to save and buy what they need, or what they want, they'll go ahead and put it on a credit card, and it's very, very easy to accumulate credit card debt.
Yeah. And Elijah is so smart. He says because they spend more than they make. And that is so true. Sahar says cost of living exceeds income. To a certain point, I agree with that, Sahar, but then we have to learn to live within our means. And sometimes that means sacrifice. I think we were going back in time when kids, there was a time when youth, as soon as they turned 18, parents will kick them out and say, all right, you're on your own, go live on your own, and they could make it on their own. But then now I think more than ever, especially with all the student loans, and once our youth are done with school, they have to pay so much, they come back to their parents' house. In one sense, it's great because the family is coming back together, but I cannot say much because I've been away from my family. I left Iran when I was 17, and I have not lived with my parents since then. So I don't know how it is living with parents these days. All right. Austin says more and more companies are offering loans, and a lot of young people are patronizing these loans. It's really worrisome thinking of the future, too much debt accumulating. That definitely. So there's a question from Jennifer. Is the house that you buy and live in considered an asset, even though it doesn't generate any income, or a liability since it continues to spend cash to maintain it? So the general rule on that is that it's an asset because it is a physical building. Even if you're spending money to maintain it and it doesn't generate income, not every asset is income generating. So you see in the orange box, these are assets that don't necessarily generate income. And some of them, like at least here in the US, when we buy a car, it drops in value, it depreciates very quickly. Furniture, so. But then, and none of them create any income. But it is, when we compare it with, let's say, renting, it's a lot of times, if we can afford it, it makes sense to buy than rent. Again, it really depends on what's happening in the market, what's happening in the society. There were times, I'm sure everyone remembers, from 2002 to 2008, when we had the real estate market crash. It did not make sense to buy a property, unless if you were living in there. But people got really greedy, and that's what happened that really made the whole system crash. So coming back to credit cards, again, credit cards or even getting any kind of loans, we have to be really careful. A lot of people think of credit cards as a emergency, but then their idea of emergency is not necessarily the right idea of emergency. So buying, I know a lot of young ones when they go to college without having the proper education on how credit cards work. They think that spending money on pizza for a get together with friends is an emergency because the others don't have money. It's like, no, that is not money. Emergency could be something that, well, the car breaks down beyond the regular maintenance. We have to maintain our cars, but then it's very possible that something unexpected happens, medical things that could easily happen that are totally unexpected. But again, if we learn how to use our credit cards, we can actually not only don't let them abuse us, we can actually abuse them. That's what I love about credit cards, because we can gain so much. Again, but it takes a lot. It takes a lot of discipline, a lot of planning. And my wife always tells me, Alex, why do you share this with everyone? It's like you're going to get them into trouble just because we have developed a discipline. It's like, well, it's something that can be done, that everyone can enjoy. But again, as we will get into next Friday, I believe you're doing the credit and credit cards. We'll get into really detail in there. Let's see, any other questions on the, let's see, Elijah put in here, really people will go to shops and spend so much and they forget that they don't have enough money. It is very unfortunate. It is very unfortunate. Absolutely, Elijah, you're correct. Sometimes that's a way for people to forget about other things. It's like a void that they're trying to fill. But we're hoping that by bringing the spiritual aspects into this program, we are not only looking at the material aspects of life. Because if we only look at the material aspects of life, yes, our problem could be spending too much money on shopping, doing stuff. But then when we set our goals, not only to achieve material goals, but also spiritual goals, and reach out to higher powers, there are some of the character traits that we have in here. We can try to work on them ourselves, but then some of them we really need to reach out to spiritual powers for assistance. I'm doing that on constant basis. Let's see, Elijah says, some learn from their mistakes. Absolutely, Elijah. Some learn from mistakes, but some don't learn from mistakes. They just continue going and going and then going. All right, before we run out of time, let's talk about our assignment and our lesson plan for Monday or Tuesday on the other side of the world. We're going to be talking about moderation. So moderation is about, we will be learning how to develop a healthy balance between our time, between our shopping, between everything that we do. So there are two charts that we'd like you to complete in here if you can. So the first one is about shopping for food. So basically you can think of for a family, your family, what are the things that you buy for, let's say, 1 week, the different things that we buy, rice, meat, chicken, vegetables, all kinds of stuff, that whatever you buy. And then we also have to think about how much of each one we are buying. If you're buying rice, we don't just go to the store. Sometimes they're prepackaged, especially these days, but sometimes we need to know how much rice we want to buy. So let's say if you're buying 2 kilos or 2 pounds of rice. So we're going to do that. And then you can come up with the price, and we'll see how we can do comparison shopping, especially here in the US. It is very easy to do comparison shopping. We have a lot of tools. This Flip is one of them. I won't open it. We'll do that on Monday. But we can really look at prices and compare between different locations. So that's one of your assignments for Monday. The second assignment that you have is doing your time management, doing time budget. So we like you to think about a time when you come home either from school or from work until the time you retire for bed. Now, these days we don't come home from school or work. We're home. But just kind of think about when you're done with work, if you can think of that. So let's say from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock, we have, let's say, 4 hours in there. So I'm doing 4 times 60 minutes. It's easier to do it in minutes. So we have 240 minutes of leisure free time. And we want to know, what are we doing? This is another way of creating a budget in here. So we're all supposed to be reading. Doesn't matter. We always encourage our youth and children to read, but adults often forget that we're supposed to read. So let's say I'm supposed to be reading 30 minutes. All right. Then maybe we watch a little TV. Not too much. 30 minutes. Unless if you're showing AGT, then we need 60 minutes. America's Got Talent, you definitely need 60 minutes, but it's not every day.
It's 90 minutes.
It's 90 minutes? Okay, thank you very much. You're killing the time, Irma. 90 minutes, all right. Maybe we'll spend some time with family. So we are allowing 30 minutes in there. So you can see we're basically just screen time. Thank you, Edwards family. Do we have to have screen time in there? But that's a good one. Let's put that in there. All right. So we say we want 30 minutes. We want to limit that, but I think all of us, it's very difficult to do that. So you see that we allocated already 180 minutes out of the 240 that we have, and 60. We still have 60 minutes to allocate, so we can do that. Then once Monday is done, we go back and say, all right, did I read 30 minutes? No, it was a really great work, and I ended up reading 60 minutes. TV, all right, I didn't get to watch America's Got Talent. I watched the 30-minute show. Spent time with family. Oh, it was so lovely. I spent 90 minutes with them. So you see, we do different stuff, and it helps us because especially for screen time, we don't think about how much time we are spending in front of the screen, whether it's being bored, whether it's just leisure time. And I remember once someone asked me, so do I just put down one time that I spend on screen or all the time that I do during the day? It's like, no, everything that you do during the day. So that's a lot. It's like, exactly. And what do we gain from that? So Elijah wants to put hygiene in there. Yes, we definitely have to. It says, because some people will take half an hour in the shower. I hope you're not one of those, Elijah. Sports exercise, yes, exactly. So those are the things that we have to do. So you got these two exercises, assignments for Monday. Please make sure you share what you're learning with others. Some can really seeing that. Let's see, Mojgan says, can screen time be family time on Instagram and Facebook? We have to be careful about that. What do we gain from that much time? I mean, if it's really close family, I think it would be okay. But then we just keep on scrolling through Instagram. At least Instagram, you know when you're up to date, it tells you. But Facebook, there's no end to that thing. You just keep on going and going and going and going. An hour has passed by, and you kind of wonder, what did I gain from that? We really have to now staying in touch with family and friends, definitely. But just and hitting like on everything, or love on everything. That just doesn't make sense. We can do so much more with our time. So before we break for today, we have 3 minutes. Please make sure you catch up with any of the assignments that you did not have time to do over this week. We know that it was a lot, but really, as you see, the assignments are really what help us learn everything. Irma, anything from you before we close for today?
No, nothing new. Everything, I think we covered it very well.
Okay, all right. That sounds good. Let's see, there was something else I was going to mention. No, that's about it. Let's see if there's any question. Yes, yeah, every session is being recorded. It will be posted in the group chat. All the sessions we're recording. I'm remembering. I'm doing a good job of remembering to record. Last session, I forgot to record one of the, it was actually particularly this lesson plan in here. Are we supposed to start working on the budget? Yes. So again, just like what we talked last week, not last week, Wednesday, I'll be more than happy to work with the family on budget. I already reached out to a few of the families to have even one-on-one session with them. I will reach out, or if I haven't done that, you would like to do that, will be more than happy, because the budget and then the income and expense tracking is really the fruit of this series. I mean, one of the fruits. It's not just about learning how to budget, but then, and it's a habit that takes time to develop. It takes time. Over time, we can develop that and get into that habit. So definitely, yes, if you haven't started working on your budget, please do that. Thank you so much, everyone. It's end of our time. Have a great weekend, and then we will see you either Monday or Tuesday.
Thanks, everybody.